afternoon. Welcome to Why Shamanism Now, a practical path to authenticity, with your host, Christina Pratt, Director of the Last Mask Center for Shamanic Healing. She's talking about how shamanic skills can bring us to physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, especially when nothing else can. Now, here's your host, Christina Pratt.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Why Shamanism Now, a practical path to authenticity. I want to call out now to my own ancestors, those who bring all that is good and true and beautiful in my ancestral line, that I may stand here centered and clear for this conversation with you all today. And I call out to your ancestors. May they bring to you your lineage, the gifts, the love, the belonging, the connection that lies there for you, waiting for you to tap into in your ancestral line. I call out to the energy of the earth, the first ancestor, the place of home, the place of deep rootedness and groundedness and knowing that we are home. I call out to the earth for the energy to come up here today to fill each one of us, replenish us, to support us, and to give us a foundation, a place for the community that gathers around this call. And I call out for the energy of the sky above to come into us here today to bring us blessing and generosity and protection, to hold the space well that we might share what needs to be shared here today. And finally, I call out to the energy of the heart to be with us here today, that our heart might be open, that it might be clear and strong and full, and that our hearts can be the place they are designed to be, which is this place that mixes the powerful passions of our body with the clarity of our mind so that we are able to truly manifest our soul's purpose. May we all be better able to do exactly what we have come into this life to do today. So thank you all for being with me here today. We're going to talk about the courageous heart today. The courageous heart is a 4-part series because shamanism deals simultaneously with the 4 wisdoms of the human, which would be the spirit wisdom of the human, the mind, the mental realm wisdom of the human, which is the one we as contemporary Americans are certainly the most familiar with. Shamanism also works equally respectful with the wisdom of the emotional body, of the heart, and ultimately with the wisdom of the physical body, which is perhaps the next most respected wisdom in America, in that we have many, many, many kinds of body practitioners, body work, energy work practitioners that are available to us today. Many of us are stepping away from whatever our healthcare systems are and simply paying up front for alternative care that seems to be more effective for whatever it is that we are looking for. And so these systems or modalities of healing are accessing the wisdom of the body and the body's innate wisdom to be in a state of health and well-being if we can simply figure out how to get out of its way and let it go there. So these are the 4 wisdoms of the human, the body and the mind and the spirit and the emotions. So what we're doing in the next 4 weeks is speaking to these wisdoms. And today our topic is the love of the healer, and we're going to focus very much on the wisdom of the heart. And I wanted to say just a little bit about the heart. As I was preparing for this show, my own helping spirit said, you need to talk about this a little bit, because as humans, whenever we say something like, in shamanism, the power is mediated by the heart, everyone says, oh, and yeah, right. There's this sense of, oh, isn't that lovely, and that's entirely impractical, and that doesn't really work anymore. And so what we really want to look at here is recognizing that the heart is certainly not by any means limited by our very human sense of romantic, familial, bloodline love, the love we have for our parents, the love we have for our children, the love we have for our mates. These are very human manifestations of love. And this is not really what shamanism is talking about when it's talking about the power of the heart. It's an aspect of it, but it's certainly not the point. And shamanism really isn't talking about love philosophically. There's a bit of a remove once we start to discuss something philosophically, and the heart wisdom is all about being in it, being absolutely in it and feeling all that is there to feel, and being able to interpret that appropriately and move with that appropriately. And so we're also not really talking about the heart psychologically, which is in the mental realm. So it's the mental realm reflecting on the heart. And what we're trying to talk about today is the actual wisdom of the heart. What does it mean to be present in the heart and to be influenced in our decision-making by the wisdom that comes purely and uniquely from the heart? So the thing that we need to understand about the heart energetically is that the heart is the place from which human beings are actually connected to everything. We have other connections, but the wise connection, in other words, in the same way our mind can give us a picture of things that we can imagine, our heart is what is able to connect into the energy channels or web, for lack of a better word, that connects all things. The heart sees that picture, if you'll allow me that. The heart sees that picture. So it's from the heart that we know that everything is connected and everything does affect everything. Our mind would like to convince us something else is true because it's simpler, because it looks like that in the physical world. But the bottom line is our heart understands this deeper interconnectedness of things. Thus, it's the heart that understands that any misuse of power harms us, harms everybody, even the person who's misusing the power. And so the heart is the place at which we recognize that the folly internal to a human that leads to a misuse of power is coming because they're afraid. Because feeling whatever they need to feel to be clear and true to what's going on in the moment is too hard. And that much of what results as a misuse of power is not so much an error in judgment of right or wrong, or even a lack of connection to someone's sense of God, or even some sort of dysfunction in the physical body. That primarily the root of a misuse of power comes out of emotional cowardice. Simply emotional cowardice. And so what I personally have experienced and witnessed within myself and others in my practice is that what shamanism powerfully brings back to us today as contemporary Americans is a path, a means by which we can truly re-engage the wisdom, the strength, and the power of the heart without reorganizing it psychologically or philosophically or spiritually or by some other realm, but to truly hunker down in the wisdom of the heart and know that it's through that intelligence that we actually connect to all things and the great web of life, and it's actually through that intelligence that we make our most powerful connection into what are really the shamanic realms. And the shamanic realms are a different layering of the complex energy that makes our lives than the psychic realms or the purely spirit realms. So shamanic realms are moving in a realm that is very much mediated for humans, at least, by our heart. Okay. So what we're looking at, so what's the point? Okay, so the point is this. You can manifest anything in your life that you want. That's how everything's organized. And there's a whole bunch of people out there and books out there and DVDs out there and everything out there that can teach you to manifest whatever you want. The question is, will you enjoy robust well-being when you have all those things you think you want? So shamanism isn't so much focused on are you able to manifest wealth and love and happiness. Shamanism is more about are you able to understand how to live today in wealth, how to live today in the abundance of whatever it is this day is abundant in. How do you live in love? How do you live in your gifts? How do you live in it now? And by infusing it with your day, with your life, with your blood, sweat, and tears, it grows in your life. And so whatever those things are that you want, grown through the wisdom of the heart, not only bring us to that place of abundance, but they bring us there in a way that we will enjoy balance and well-being and a robust dynamic between our body wisdom, our mind wisdom, our emotional wisdom, and our spiritual wisdom. And so, in essence, what we're talking about with shamanism, using shamanism as a spiritual path. Okay, so what we're really talking about then is surrendering to our own true nature so that we can connect to the powers of nature, since that's how we see the web of life around us, and to move through those channels into the shamanic channels where our helping spirits are available and we begin to get wisdom and the back and forth interconnected flow of energy. Should be simple, right? Why aren't we doing it then? Well, one of the main reasons for us as contemporary people why this is somewhat challenging for us to really embody, since it makes a whole lot of sense, why don't we just do it, is because it forces us to leave behind the main ways in which we relate to each other, which are all of the ways we relate to each other that are not through a balanced heart. But they are petty. They are blaming. There's a sense of owing, a sense of debt, a sense of I'm trying to get what I want from you because I didn't get it from my mom and dad when I was 2. There's this constant sense of debt and need, and in a sense, this is what is keeping us from simply stepping into love, stepping into the power of the heart. And so the powers of the heart that we're going to talk about today go in the work that I teach in the cycle of transformation are presided over, let's say, by the aspect in all of us that is the healer. The archetypal energy of the healer is presiding over the heart. And the heart powers that we access through a balanced heart is the power of love and the power of power itself, which would be love in motion. We also, in the heart, have the power of wisdom and vision. And so there's a dynamic relationship also between wisdom and vision. The wisdom to understand which vision to manifest, and then once the vision is chosen, the actual wisdom to figure out how to manifest it. And so they have a dynamic relationship as well. And so this is what we're talking about today, is the love of the healer. So I invite you all to call in, ask your questions. The number to call in is 866-472-5795, or email me at Christina at lastmasscenter.org. And if you are interested in sessions and long-distance healing and divination, all of that can be accessed through our website, which is lastmasscenter.org. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you all for joining me today. Welcome back, everyone. These are words from Delmore Schwartz, and I don't know actually who Delmore Schwartz was, but I love this quote. Love is the most difficult and dangerous form of courage. Courage is the most desperate, admirable, and noble kind of love. And I share this with you because it takes serious courage to live your soul's true purpose, to live authentically. I mean, almost every single client that comes to me wants to know why they're here, to live their soul's purpose and to have a meaningful life. But it is the rare individual that understands truly the amount of courage that it will take to do that. That there is no arrival, oh, I've found my right job and now I'm going to live happily ever after. If you are truly living your life in such a way that you want to know and to live fully and passionately your soul's purpose, you will be asked to bring courage to the table every single day. And so with that courage to live your authentic self, the next thing that you need is a vehicle. And this is one of the greatest confusions today, is the distinction between the energy that is my soul's purpose and the vehicle through which I do it. For example, being a shaman is not my soul's purpose. The shaman piece is the vehicle through which I express my soul's purpose. I expressed my soul's purpose differently when I was dancing. My parents expressed their soul's purpose raising me in their parenting. That there are many, many vehicles for your soul's purpose. That your soul's purpose isn't, baker, tailor, candlestick maker. And so the work, the actual work that we do in the world, is the means by which we work, is the vehicle to carry our soul's purpose energy out into the world. And the better the vehicle, the less energy is wasted in the vehicle in the transformation. And so the energy that you put in when you go to work comes out as product, and that product is your soul's purpose. That's a good vehicle. When a vehicle takes an enormous amount of energy and you don't get to enjoy much soul's purpose coming out the other side of the day, then it's not a great vehicle. But there are many, many, many vehicles, and that's part of what we're wanting to find, is to connect with the energy of our purpose and then to find a vehicle that is appropriate for bringing that purpose out into the world. So from a shamanic perspective, then, what is important once we connect with the energy of our purpose, we don't have to be able to name it. We just need to feel it. And what we feel is passion. And what we feel is a passion that wakes up whenever anybody starts talking about that thing that you feel that passion about. It doesn't matter how tired or exhausted you are. If that becomes the thing that everyone is focused on, you're animated by the passion you have for that thing, whatever it is. That's how you know that it's your soul's purpose. So, to then support the manifestation of the soul's purpose in the world, we need archetypal energies to support us. And these are the archetypes that are, I guess you could organize all the vehicles for expressing a soul's purpose that humans have access to probably into these 4 groups. And so there are healing vehicles, there are teaching, leading vehicles, there are spiritual warriorship vehicles, and there are visionary or seer vehicles. And what's interesting is that most of us kind of wake up into, I need to be conscious in my life. Let me wake up here. And we're usually pretty comfortable in one of those archetypal areas. We're usually deeply uncomfortable in one of the other archetypal areas and kind of somewhere in between the two other archetypal areas. And so the path for me with students is to bring them into the cycle of transformation where they are asked to engage shamanically with each of these 4 archetypes, to heal whatever is in the way, to release what needs to be released, to receive what needs to be received, to be able to be in good relationship with that archetypal energy. And what good relationship in this context means is that when the moment I am in calls for healing energy, the healer archetypal energy flows through me unimpeded, and it guides me in what to do. Same thing. If the moment calls teacher, the teacher energy flows through me unimpeded, and it guides me in what to do. So this is what we're looking for, to be able to be in that place with these 4 archetypal energies. But most of us have some pretty serious biases about these different energies. I personally was abused by almost every teacher I ever had. So as I came awake in my life, I had lots of issues around the teacher energy. So the teacher energy would try to flow through me because that's what the moment in front of me was asking for. It would hit my own unresolved issues and go sideways. And what energy, especially powerful archetypal energies going sideways, means is that it's coming out in shadow. So you have powerful archetypal energy moving now in the world through shadow because you were not a clear vessel. And everybody, take a deep breath. Most of us aren't, especially when we wake up into our life. And in the training that I do with people, it takes 4 years just to grasp what it really takes to clear ourselves in these 4 aspects of archetypal energy. So, nobody should be judging themselves, right now it's a process, but it's a process well worthy of your time and energy because it's going to allow you to truly learn to get out of your way so that your passion can move through your body, animate you so you know where your soul's purpose is, you find the good vehicles to live it, and you step up and do it. And in doing that, begin then to find the way to create balance and wholeness and well-being in your life. So, the healer, then, is bringing us into the energy of love, that the real power of the healer energy in the heart is the power of love, and the healer brings the full heart. Now, don't get all, human and emotional now about this. What we're really looking at is the power of love that connects all things. the power of love that asks you to live yourself so fully you are willing to let whatever no longer serves you die. Because the ally with the healer energy is death in shamanism. That is completely different relationship in contemporary allopathic medicine with death. But in shamanic practices, the healer stands right next to death in their healing work, understanding that essentially the shamanic perspective of someone healing is that the person who held the energy that held the illness dies. And the person who can hold the energy of well-being is reborn through the ritual process. And so this is an aspect of shamanic healing that's a very different way of thinking about healing, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying it's a very different way to look at it, that we are looking then in our shamanic work with the healer to begin to intentionally welcome in death as an ally. And so what does that look like? That looks like greeting each morning with the question, what would I do today if I knew I was going to die tomorrow? And to begin to choose what you are and are not going to spend your time on, based on whether or not you'd bother to do it if you knew you were going to die tomorrow. And to allow the fact of your mortality not to depress you and to throw you into denial and to have you run around acting like it's never going to happen, but which is, a good portion of our culture is driven in that way, but to truly embrace death as that archetypal energy that invites us to live fully in every moment. And the fullest life we can live in any moment is that expression of our soul's purpose coming straight out of our passion. And so love then, the love of the healer then is the energy that is creating the context that holds us internally and says, get up and live. Let this old way of being go. You've done it. It's beautiful, but it's done. Move along. This is the energy then of the healer. And when the healer energy goes into shadow, which I was talking about earlier, when the healer energy moves into shadow, it moves through us and we act out then in patterns of the martyr or the addict. And there probably isn't anybody listening who can sit there and say, well, I have absolutely no addictions. We live in America. And it is one of our greatest commodities, is our capacity to turn anything into an addiction. And the reason for this is our healer energy is so deeply shoved into shadow. We are so afraid to love. And this is all that shamanism is really asking of us, is to step into our true nature, which is the wisdom of the heart as part of our true nature. It's one of the 4 wisdoms that we have, to step into the heart. You've got one. You might as well not be afraid to use it. And to be willing to move in a wholehearted way in your life, and to listen to yourself when you hear yourself saying, oh, well, I guess that has to be me. I guess I'm the one who'll stay late at work. I guess I'm the one who has to give up my time at the gym. And listen to the martyr speaking and recognize this is where I'm chickening out of love. I'm chickening out of love when I'm being a martyr. When we're being addictive, we're chickening out of love. What are we thinking? And so the work then through the shamanic process is how to bring in the wisdom of the healer and the wisdom of death to help us look at the dynamics that lock us into these old patterns of martyr and these old patterns of addict, so that we can come back to this place in our heart where we can be full-hearted about what we do, which is what death is asking us. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, what would you be doing today? Where are you full-hearted? And why are you bothering to do anything in your life that you don't feel full-hearted about? That's the conversation we have with the healer and with death. So, this is the shadow work that the healer helps us to do in the cycle of transformation work that Last Mass offers. So we are going on break. You are welcome to send me an email with questions or give me a call. The email address, again, is Christina@lastmasscenter.org. And if you want a whole bunch more information about all of these teachings, you can go to the website at lastmasscenter.org. Thank you all for being with me here today, and we'll come back with more about the life processes of the healer in the next section. Welcome back, everyone. As we forge ahead here talking about the energy of the healer, I would like to thank first Angeles Arian. She is a wonderful teacher and writer and storyteller, and the book in particular that is connected to much of what I'm talking about here today is called The Fourfold Way. And her name again, well, you can go to her website, which is www.angelesarian.com. And I'd also like everybody to remember that much of the shamanic healing that could help you with these issues we're talking about can be done long distance. And that you can learn to do many of these things yourself using shamanic skills in your own life, and that has nothing to do with you becoming a shaman. So the shamanic skills are available for you simply to become a spiritual adult in your life. You don't need to want to be a shaman. And so it's important to understand that the shamanic healing and the shamanic skill set is available for everyday ordinary people who simply want to live the life they've come here to live. And it helps for a human to do that, to have the shamanic skill set. So I have another quote for you here today by Alva Simon. Death is only one of many ways to lose your life. The dangers of not doing what you perceive as your destiny are greater than anything else. Let me read that again. Death is only one of many ways to lose your life. The dangers of not doing what you perceive as your destiny are greater than anything else. So how can the healer help us then to live our destiny and to not die while we're living, to spend a whole life that's dead? We want to live our destiny and live it fully and passionately. And this is what the healer, with its dynamic with death, helps us to do. And the healer isn't just helping us with shadow issues and our various addictions to intensity, whether that's relationship or sex or working out at the gym or, extreme sports or too many coffees or whatever it is, whatever. It's all addiction to intensity. And what the addiction to intensity is replacing for us is our courage to step into the fullness of our love. So, what the healer has to offer us then is the healer presides over the life processes. And what life processes are patterns of life experience that are happening to you all the time, over and over again, and there is nothing you can do about it. This is simply what it means to be alive. They are the processes by which our life, the patchwork of our life is sewn together, that each process is a piece of that fabric of the quilt that is our life. And these are simply the pieces we are dealt in this life, on this planet, in this universe. We don't really get to pick a different set. This is what we get. The healer presides over life processes. The warrior presides over life processes. And we actually even touched on that, speaking with Ed last week in the conversations about the warrior and the soul. And please remember, all of these shows are available with download from the Voice America site or on iTunes. So please feel free to download the shows, to listen to them, to trade them with your friends. So the warrior oversees life processes, the teacher oversees life processes, and the seer or the visionary oversees life processes. And these life processes, the more we can recognize them and understand that this is what we're doing, this is what's happening in our life right now, the more we can participate fully in that life process, the more complete that process will be in transforming us or delivering us to wherever that process takes us. And the more we will not do what most of us do, is we get into a life process and we panic and we bail. We do our best to not complete the process, and so the process simply starts over again and escalates usually. There's no way out of life processes, folks. So what shamanism realized, what shamanic teachings are based on, is the recognition, these life processes are happening. There's no way we as humans are going to get out of this. So let's participate. Let's participate fully. It's kind of like the difference between if you've ever whitewater rafted. It's much easier and less bruise-inducing to get down the Colorado River, for example, in the raft than it is floating free and being dashed against the rocks as you go down the river. So the point is, you're human, you're in the river. There isn't an option. You're in the river. The question is, would you like to go down the river in a nice rubber raft with a guide, or are you going to just get bashed on the rocks willy-nilly? And so the archetypal energies, the healer, the warrior, the visionary, and the teacher, help us to create our raft so that we can get down the river and maybe even enjoy the adventure and have some fun along the way instead of just being crashed and slammed and drowned and bruised and beaten. So the life processes then of the healer are life, birth, rebirth, that energy of springtime, which I don't know where you all are, but I'm in Portland, Oregon, and it's already happening, and it's beautiful. So it's that energy of the new coming in. And for us as humans, we're living, we're maxed out, we're all functioning at 100%. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It just means we're operating. All of our systems are operating, doing something. Some of it may be unconscious, but we're doing something. So these energies then, the other aspect of the life process of the healer is to deal with these energies that no longer serve us, places where we're living fully, but it's not contributing to the greater path towards our authenticity. These energies need to die. And so the second life process of the healer is death. What in you needs to die today so that you can live more fully tomorrow? And how do you kill it? How do you bring death? How do you bring the grace of death to the things you have created in your life that no longer serve your conscious movement towards a life living your soul's purpose? It's one of the most powerful gifts that the healer offers us. And in shamanism, it's very important because it is the ego death that is the function around which the initiation happens that brings a person into shamanism. So this relationship with the healer and death and initiation through ego death is a huge theme in shamanism. But it's a theme in humans, period, not just shamans. So the third life process of the healer is faith. And it doesn't matter what you have faith in from a shamanic perspective. What matters is that you are internally organized in such a way that you have the capacity for faith, that when you need faith, it's there to call on. And that is a little tricky issue, I think, for many contemporary people because our faith is so wrapped up in religion. And we need, which is fine if your religion has succeeded in cultivating faith for you. The issue is for those people who it did not succeed to cultivate faith in, where are they going to find it? And that is the important thing, I think, in the working relationship with even one helping spirit, is that a person, no matter how damaged they are by their religious experience, can reclaim their capacity for faith from that life experience through a relationship with their helping spirits, because they have direct connection to divine energy, and that faith can be renewed and reborn. And that is the beauty of faith, of course, is that the process of growing stronger in faith is that you lose it, and you have to find it again, and that you go from blind faith to faith you've earned, and on, cultivating a stronger and stronger faith. And why do we need faith? Because if we're going to go from what we have been doing into the unknown to something that's new that we haven't done yet, there is a gap we have to cross between what we know and what we don't know. And the only thing that gets us across that gap is faith, because it's not logical. Your brain is not going to help you there, and your love is not going to help you there. What you need is faith, the faith that I can step into the void. It's the scene in Indiana Jones where Harrison Ford steps out into the void, and the little bridge is there. That's faith. And the final life process of the healer, as we come up on our next break already, is The life process, which is the act of asking for help. And everyone always looks at me sideways when I say that, because it doesn't seem like life and death and birth and faith and then asking for help. But what asking for help does is it shapes a kind of empowered humility within us, where we're able to surrender and let go. To ask a question, to frame the question and ask for help, is an act of empowered humility and surrender. And in that state of grace, things can happen that couldn't happen when you were unwilling to ask the question, either because you couldn't figure out the question, on one hand, or what is more common for us, I don't know why, but what is very common for us as contemporary Americans, which is we simply do not ask for help. And to frame the question and ask for help is a critical aspect of engaging all shamanic practices, because they move through divination. They move through relationship with spirit, which is question-driven. So those are the life processes of the healer. And when we come back from this break, we'll talk about how those things work together in the 4 chambers of the heart. So thank you all for being with me here today and talking about the healer and talking about what it takes to live with a courageous heart. Welcome back, everyone. So in our final segment, we're going to talk more about the healer. And so as we access this teaching of the healer and work with the healer in death to help us to live authentically in our lives, at Last Mass Center, that work is a workshop called Masks of Illusion and the Authentic Self. And there are no prerequisites for that workshop. If what we're talking about today feels exactly like what you need right now in your life, then that is the workshop for you. So in these workshops, in the shamanic teachings that we offer, love, the kind of love we're talking about here today, stands at the center of everything. And at the core of the teachings is a practice with the 4-chambered heart. And what this practice does, it's another skill set that's under the purview of the healer, is it gives us access to the powers of the heart. And again, those powers are love in motion or power, wisdom, and vision. And these are the energies of the heart that we need to be able to call on continuously throughout the day to be able to understand what is necessary to live our soul's purpose, to live authentically. Now, yes, it's perfectly fine for us to occasionally go for a great big tune-up to some person who is a really powerful diviner or channel or gifted astrologer or whatever it is, the means by which they may give you guidance in your life. But the bottom line is they're not there every day. And every day you are asking questions to guide you in your life towards a more authentic, passionate life that is an expression of your soul's purpose. And so without working on the chambers of the heart, we lose this full access to love and power and wisdom and vision that is ours. It's right there for us through our heart, through the way that our heart then connects to the greater energy of all things. So the kinds of things, so what we're looking at here then is the kinds of things that the healer in death help us to clear out of our life so that we can have access to the powers of the 4 chambers of the heart. And very specifically, we need to understand that the stories we tell ourselves program us. And I'm certainly not the only person on the Seventh Wave Network telling you that. I mean, I think probably everybody on the Seventh Wave Network is telling you that. And a bazillion books out there, and a whole bunch of teachers are telling you that. This is not news. The stories we tell ourselves program us. And it is these stories that the healer in death can help us to bring death to and rebirth to new stories. So what I mean by stories is, what are the stories you tell yourself about how you got hurt in your childhood, either by your parents or your teachers or your priests or whoever it was that was in authority, your siblings? These are stories. And I don't mean no disrespect for your story, but your story is an explanation. It is not an excuse to not live your soul's purpose. It's simply an explanation for why you are where you are in this moment. But the healer and death are with you. They are ready at any moment that you choose to give up that story. The stories, the other kinds of stories that the healer and death help us to clear out of our lives is our whatever our big story of our wounded child is. We carry, in America, we carry a big story. I call it the big lie. And that is the story that I am separate. That I am separate from God, that I am separate, spirit is separate from matter, that I am separate from you, that there is some separation. And yet shamanism teaches us that all things are connected. And this is the deeper knowing that resonates in our heart. And so that's another story that programs us through this idea of separation, to be alone, to be lonely, to generate isolation in our life. The healer and death are happy to step up at any moment when you are ready to let that story go and change the quality of your life by not allowing that story to program your life anymore and open up to a new story. There is a big, big story, big, complex, interwoven story that we work with in the 4 years of the cycle of transformation to get at, which is a whole big story called your false self. And the false self is essentially the entire person you learn to be to survive that protects you from being your authentic self. Because most of us got some flack and negative judgment when we started being authentic as children. And so we developed this whole other way to be. It doesn't matter whether it was the good boy or the bad boy. It doesn't matter whether you're rebelling or doing what everybody told you. The point is you're still reacting and not living authentically. And so the false self then is a huge story that we need the healer and death to help us to release. And the important thing to understand about this work, which is what I love about the simplicity of it with these archetypes, is as the archetypal energies help us to drop these stories, death comes in and helps us to kill off that story that no longer serves us. And we open up to say, well, what do I do instead? The archetypal energies are right there. What you do instead is heal. What you do instead is teach. What you do instead is see your vision. What you do instead is act as a warrior and step up and do what it takes to live the life you've come here to live. We don't need all of these little personal human stories. We can be vehicles for these archetypal energies that move. They're like pure program. They're like good code. They're good code that aligns us with the true energies of the universe of which we are part. So our true nature then is connected in to the big nature in which we live. So the great opportunity then with the healer and death is to surrender our stories, to humble ourselves, to ask for help, to surrender the stories that keep us small, that keep us isolated, that keep us false, that keep us out of our authenticity, and to allow the beauty of the pure energies to move through us through our shamanic practices so that we can work with the wisdom of all four bodies, the heart, the mind, the spirit, the physical body, and bring all those wisdoms to bear in the life task, which is living your soul's purpose. So all these things I've talked about today are not out of your reach. This is what Last Mass Center is teaching every day. And they are not available just if you want to grow up and be a shaman. They are available for grown-ups who want to be spiritual adults, for people who want to live their soul's purpose. So they are accessible to everyone, and they are there for anyone who wants to be fully and completely human. So thank you all for being with me here today and listening to the first part of The Courageous Heart. Next week, we'll be engaged in part 2 of The Courageous Heart, The Wisdom of the Warrior. And I want to thank the spirits for holding us today in this conversation, the ancestors for guiding what needs to be said and allowing us to hear, for the earth below and its firm foundation and the sky above for inspiration and illumination. And ultimately, I want to thank the power of the heart that unites us all. You can subscribe to a weekly reminder about the show if you keep forgetting. Just email me, Christina at lastmasscenter.org, and I'd be happy to put you on that list. It's just a simple email, comes once a week, and lets you know what the show is, how to hook up to it, and what the topic is. All of the shows are available on the Voice America site for download, and they're also available at the iTunes Store. If you want more definitions and interesting essays and a bunch of cool stuff about shamanism, the Encyclopedia of Shamanism is available in a paperback edition through lastmaskcenter.org. And finally, for more information about classes and healings, check the website. Thank you all for being with me this afternoon, and I hope to hear you listening next week.